This story is one from the North American Indian tradition, and it's a story that tells us of the importance in our lives of storytelling, and it's called The Story Fire. When Tiawa, the Great Spirit, created the universe and all living things, he gave to each of those living things a story to tell. Yes, every creature, every mountain, every river, every tree had its own story. And as keeper of those stories, the Great Spirit appointed a wise woman called Sajeko. And it was Sajeko who lit the story fire, a fire around which every living thing could gather to tell its own story. And it was Sajeko who would remember those stories and take them out into the world and tell them to others, who would tell them to others, who would tell them to others. And so it was that every living thing in the world knew the story of every other living thing, and because of that, they were able to live in great harmony. Until man set out to conquer the earth and to rule over all others, until man began to tear up the prairies and pollute the rivers and the sea, until man began to fell the forests and tear the heart out of the mountains. And as he made a wasteland of the earth, so his own life became a wasteland full of things, full of hurry, full of greed. And in that wasteland, people no longer listened to the voice of Sajeko. They had no time for the stories. They laughed and called them foolish. Only a few of the old ones remembered, but they were called foolish too, and no one listened to the stories. And so the stories withered and began to die. And without their stories being told, eagle and buffalo and coyote and bear, they no longer gathered round the story fire. The story circle was broken. The fire dwindled. Without its story being told, the rain ceased to fall. The grass no longer grew. The wind stopped blowing across the prairies. And when the people saw this, they were afraid. They feared that when the sun no longer heard its story being told, it would no longer bring the day. They feared that when the last story was forgotten, the earth itself would die. But Sajeko had not forgotten the stories. And little by little, people began to listen for her voice, buried deep in their hearts. First it came in dreams. Then little by little, the stories came back, and people began to pass them on, first to their children, then to each other. And when rain heard its story being told, it began to fall again. When grass heard its story being told, it grew green and tall. When the wind heard its story being told, it sent the little breezes running back across the prairies to tell the people, "I'm back." And one by one, as they heard their own stories again, the birds and the beasts and the spirits of the trees and the rivers and the rocks and of all living things gathered once more round the story fire to tell their tales again and to tend the story fire even more lovingly for having been away. And now perhaps, as we listen once more to each other's stories, the world again will learn to live in peace and harmony.